You know, one of the beauties of a country garden is that you do get lots and lots of birds. Let me see, I can sit in my kitchen here. That's Bob. Bob is our visiting pheasant. I think he's seen me photographing him or videoing him. He's a little bit on the shy side. He's just gone under that lovely coloured maple. That's Osakazuki, by the way. Where is he? Anyway, you can sit here and you can watch so many birds we have at the moment. We have sparrows and tits and all the usual suspects, blackbirds, thrush. And then the other day we had some field fares. There must have been about a dozen of them down by the pond. And a yellow wagtail. You don't see very many yellow wagtails, or I never have. But it is one of the, it's just, you forget how lucky you are to be able to just sit here with a cup of cocoa or coffee or tea or whatever and just watch them. Not a care in the world. All the shit that goes on in the world, and their only interest is in feeding. And come the spring, I suppose, shagging as well. That's about their life, isn't it? Eat and breed. And they have a struggle to do the former, most certainly at certain times of the year, which is why I like to feed them. Well, Lisa's more of a bird feeder than me. She's a very big bird feeder. You will know that bird food, like keeping chickens, not only causes problems with compacted ground, it also causes problems with rats. And I'm just as badly affected here. I do keep on top of them with an air rifle, but that's not always effective. And if there's other people out in the gardens next door, you know, you don't want flying pellets going all over the place. So traps I use, they are rats and mice are very wily characters. The best way is not to actually feed them, and that's to keep the food off the ground. The minute the food starts getting on the ground, the scratch goes on the ground. Scratch is a word we use for like corn and mixed oats and things that you just chuck down for the birds. It's always been called scratch. I don't know why. Yeah, so I think the thing to do is to try and come up with a solution whereby you can feed the birds, but without the waste going onto the ground. You can get traditional bird tables, but the rats can climb up a lot of them, and the food tends to go off the side because they're not very large at the top, and we've got quite a lot of birds here. So the project this month is to try and come up with a way of making something, a feeding station, not a bird table, that will stop the food going onto the ground. I had quite a lot of wood. When I built this pier and all these sort of pergolas and arbours and things around the garden, actually, it was more about keeping me amused than actually wanting to build them. But I did want to add some height. I had a lot of the wood left over, well, not a lot, but some various bits and pieces left over. Yeah, and hopefully we can be able to use some of that. I don't want to have to buy anything. I mean, I don't mind buying it, but if you can use the scrap wood, so much the better. I dug some out yesterday. There's a couple of nice pieces of 4x4. Some smaller pieces of 4x4 offcuts. And this is interesting. This is like a duck board. Now, I had this for the old lathe when I was wood turning with a very, very old lathe. It was from the 1960s. But it worked, but it was bloody noisy. So I think I might be able to adapt this. I had this duck board because the old lathe was on the workbench. And when I started selling quite a bit of stuff, I discovered I could afford to buy a new lathe, this one. But the old one was the same make, a Coronet, but from many, many years ago. So it was set on this workbench, which is a fair bit higher. So I needed a duck board to stand on to get the height to work at, which was okay. So there's that we can use, and those scrap bits. Let's see how we get on. This is Viburnum Burkewoodii. I'm tempted to get rid of it because every spring it gets hit by aphid and the foliage is distorted, and then you think it's dead, and then it grows through it. The flowers are of course exquisite, highly scented. Lichtenthalii, the holly, that's not really what you would call sorry, I've messed up the focus. It's not what you call autumn colour, but it's there all the year round with its elongated sort of lanceolate type leaves. Very nice. A little bit of colour on this. This is a cotinus called Old Fashioned. The trend has been in the recent years for the purple leaved ones, which are or can be fantastic, but this has nice colour as well. The Osaka Zuki, well, what can I say? It's beautiful. Magnolia Yellowbird. Well, it looks like a lot of dead stuff on there rather than autumn colour. This has already lost its leaves, of course. This is Acergricium. Nearly all the leaves have gone, but the colour is still beautiful. But look at the colour of the bark. And the emeraldness of that little bit of moss on there. Beautiful thing. All the russet colours of the leaves are on the ground now because we did have a bit of a gale. This is next door's bloodgood. Well, it's next door's, but it's a plant I grew. Yeah, that's nice. Katsura has a little bit of colour. Acer Katsura, although it's primarily obviously for its spring colour. There is our unknown maple. It's not a palmatum, I know, but I must get this definitely identified. Somebody sent me a message of what it might be, but it's it's absolutely beautiful. Gold colour. I mean, look at that. That is really is exquisite. It's the best it's ever been. Hey, there's another maple in there. I haven't got a clue what that is. Forgotten. And here's some lionheart. Acer lionheart. This normally you would have this much shorter, but this is a top worked one, and by that the graft was put in on the top here. Yeah, it's very good. Nice colour. The colour, as I said, is not as good as I expected this year. I expected it to be better after all the sun, but of course a lot of the leaves suffered from drought and were very stressed for a long time, so perhaps that's what's creating or causing them to be a little bit less than I thought they would be. This is another snake bark. This is Acer Davidii. You can see the colour on the leaves there. That's really nice. Another plant that has colour, although you can't see it at the moment, usually covered in yellow berries, is the sorbus. This is Joseph Rock. But the leaves are falling before they are colouring up on some plants, and I can only assume that is because of the drought. I think I said that twice, didn't I? It's an old age thing. The Parotia ironwood, because it is the common name, comes from Iran. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Quite stunning. I believe it's a member of the Hamamelis family, or Hamamelis. Oh God, I'm struggling to say my words. Walk up the other side. The Catinus, the purple leaf Catinus, which I've spoke about before, hasn't turned yet. This is Catinus Grace. I'm going to let this get a lot taller and take the bottom out of it, but it can be absolutely incredibly dramatic. This is a roost. That's buggered really. It's finished. Most of the things this side have gone over. It's starting to get a sad time of the year. Chinese lace, the sorbus, another really bright red berries. I'm quite surprised by the berries. And it's very, very ferny, divided. Well, it's in the name, isn't it? Chinese lace. Lace-like foliage. Beautiful. Very, very beautiful. Yeah, as I was explaining about the Joseph Rock, the sorbus mountain ash, its red leaves have gone, and they're sort of coming down in two sections. There's a whole load that are stuck on there at the moment, and they're sort of going russet coloured, but the red ones, there seems to be a batch that have fallen prior to everything else. And if you look down here on the ground, you can see the red ones will come off. It's nice when they turn all together. That's when you get the most dramatic effect. But sometimes in a very dry summer, they don't always do that. Look at the colour on that. It's just so dramatic. It's always been my motto when walking on the lawn for the first time of the day, especially this time of the year: check for turds first. If you've got dogs, and I mean this most sincerely, it's very hard to tell the turds from the leaves this time of the year. So I try and once or twice a week, there's one. See, it could be a leaf. You see now, as I say, I was trying and blow the leaves off. You recognise your own dog. I know Pepper. She does 3-piece sweets. There is always 3 pieces. Always. She doesn't do a whippy that comes up to a cone. She does 3-piece sweets. So if you only see 2, you then have to check your shoes, because she's very regular and very precise. And sometimes you see one that's already been stood in, and that's very annoying as well. It's when you don't see them and they've been stood in. What I need to do here is make some adjustments to this duck board. Obviously, the thing I have in mind is 2 posts with a kind of swinging table between, but I need to stop it swinging too far in the wind. So if I reduce the ends and make a notch in the middle, that can go, the post can go between there. I'll put some gauze on the top. Probably a bit complicated. Now my wife Lisa, she has a birthday coming up on the 3rd of December. So I asked her, I said, "Where, do you want to go out for dinner for your birthday? We can go somewhere fancy like the CB." And well, I asked hoping she wouldn't. So I said, we can go to McDonald's. Well, I asked that sort of hopefully because I like McDonald's and it's not very expensive. Anyway, her reply was something of a shock. I was not happy. The colour on the Nishikigawa, I think, and the Arakawa Japanese maples are particularly nice at the moment. Obviously they're cork maples, meaning that they have this very fissured bark. What I do notice is we have some birds called tree creepers in England. I don't know if you have them in other countries, but they love going up and down here, picking out bits and pieces, which is nice. I do love to see birds in the garden. This is a daphne I grew from seed, and it's actually been in flower for most of the summer. I think it's a form of retusa. Only think. But it's beautiful. It's highly scented. And it's now the 6th of November, 7th of November, something like that. And just wonderful. Next spring we'll maybe take some cuttings of that, or it might be late next summer. I haven't decided yet. I need to remember as well. Some of the arums, Arum Italicum pictum, the lovely coloured leaves are starting to come through. They're looking really lovely. You can see they spread underground, and there's some new ones coming up. Really nice. But getting back to the birds, this is the table. I've finished it now. Let's see if we can see it from further up here. There. Yeah, it's doing well. You can see I've put a roof on it and hung some feeders in it, various forms. And the tray that's gone underneath. It's unbelievable how much they just scrat out when they feed. This particular feeder I don't think is very good because you get a little bit of food out of it and it immediately tips out. So this is would normally have all gone on the floor. There was a pheasant in here this morning scratching it out. That's why there's a little bit on the floor. probably the best thing to do is just let them finish everything that's on in here. They do eat off of that, but it's working quite well. I could stop the pheasant by putting some pig netting around it, and that would keep out really big birds, and the hawk as well while they're feeding. You know, we do have a few go to the hawk. It's on chains. It's notched at the ends, so it can't go, but the chains allow it to be adjustable. So if these feeders were shorter, I could raise up the tray. The lily boxes I've put here to discourage rats from going up. If they try and climb on that, it will fall over, and hopefully that will do it. But there's a little bit of a roof on there. I'm not too worried about giving birds a roof, but anyway, there you are. I'll try and put a clip on of the birds feeding on it. There were 40 on it at one stage yesterday, mostly goldfinches and things. Tits, sparrows, or spadgies as we call them. Yeah, look at the colour on that. It's an amazing thing. I'd originally wanted to put, you know, the pears and the apples all the way around, and they've done really well this year. Obviously, I wasn't filming when they were really fully cropping. It was nice, but with these pears, I'm taking them up, and then I'm going to create a head on the top, like a typical sort of lollipop shape. There's one at the other side as well. These apples have got away now, and I'm hoping to take them over the top, so that the whole thing becomes an enclosure of apples and pears. That must be up there now. Like, that must be 12, 13 foot. But the colour on a pear is actually really quite nice, isn't it? This is a little self-sown Verbena bonariensis. Bloody boring plant that is. People love it, but I don't like it. A long, gangly, straggly thing. But there, some, at least I like some. Roses still flowering. There's a lovely little bloom. Look at that. There's nice coloured hips, which reminds me I have over the way. Everything's looking rather sad, isn't it? But you know, all deserves a rest as we go into winter. Yeah, these have nearly gone over now. These are the hips of Geranium moisei, Rosa Geranium moisei, Rosa. Oh Christ, get this right. Rosa moisei geranium. That's, the geranium just means that it's a variety. That's Finney's grey. What else have I got? There's not a lot else. I will have to do the trilliums quite soon. That'll be in the next video. I'll start preparing those. I'll show you something actually. Many years ago, what we used to do for fertilizers was get Hessian sacks. This is a bit of a building site around here because my neighbour's doing work and things. Yeah, we used to get Hessian sacks, and we would have a water butt, and we would stick a load of either horse shit or sheep shit or sheep doddins, you know, the sort of like winnets and things that clag to the sheep's arse. And we'd put them all, you know, they'd get sheared off by the farmers to stop the diseases and things. And we get bags of these and sacks of them and just drop them into the water butts. And the following spring you would find that the water was very, very high in nitrogen and stuff, so it was used as a liquid fertilizer. It wasn't the most pleasant job cleaning them out every year, which when you're a garden boy like I was, the lowest form of human life, you got that job. This is a Vulcan incinerator. I'll be burning this stuff. I like to do this because in the bottom, as long as I just put the prunings in and wood and stuff, untreated wood, what's at the bottom is pure potash, and that's brilliant round the garden, and a little bit mixed in with water and a bit of the old Doddins water in the old days. You used to put that in, and that would create an even better fertilizer, particularly good for tomatoes. Well, what we used to do back then was dig a pit, maybe 2 foot by 2 foot, and put some wire mesh over the top. And what we did then was burn the garden waste over the top, and the pit would gradually fill up with the ash. And those were used, well, for all sorts of things. It was just the most natural form of potash. And we used the other stuff for nitrogen. One has the tendency to say, old ways is the best. But they weren't. I'd rather buy it in a packet nowadays because it was bloody hard work and it wasn't very nice. This here is my wood pile for turning. There's all sorts under there, and I have to get all these old pots sorted out. This is just my rough area. This wall is coming down apparently. It's the end of an old barn, so we can't do anything around here until that's sorted out. There's a eucalyptus, I think it was called Baby Blue. Yeah, smells like it. Yeah, it's meant to be a dwarf one, but it's getting a bit big now. Well, it's not so dwarf. Yeah, well, there are literally dozens of species of eucalyptus. My favourite has always been glaucescens. It's the most beautiful silvery foliage, well, on the juvenile foliage. Yeah, a lovely thing. And this is larch. This is the pendulous one. Dr. Stiff's weeping larch, or stiffy. Yeah, I'm not being juvenile. That's what it was called. And it's getting away now. It's looking really nice. I like that. I love weeping plants. They add movement to a garden. And this is Catina's Great. I've spoken of it before and how it goes the most beautiful scarlet colours. Well, I don't know why, but it's not going very scarlet this year. There's a little bit of scarlet, but it's gone this sort of russet, yellowy, orangey colour, which I'm not used to. I don't know why this has happened. Maybe it's something to do with the year and the sugars. I don't know. But it's very frustrating. Having said it turns a beautiful scarlet and it's gone bloody orange. You see, my wife is a typical Yorkshire woman. Skin a flea for a farthing. She's careful with the old money. Anyway, I said, where do you want to go? Because, you know, I just hoped it would be McDonald's. I said, well, that depends. I said, depends on what? She said, well, whether you get your hair cut. I said, what do you mean whether I get my hair cut? She thinks my hair looks fucking ridiculous and is embarrassed to go out with me. She didn't put it quite like that because she doesn't use bad language, but I know what she meant. And it's very hurtful. It has very hurtful indeed. Shouldn't matter how I have my hair. So sometimes in life you have to make a stand. You know, I have to stand up. She's 14 years younger than me. She comes from a different generation. She's a child of the 80s and 90s. I'm a child of the 60s and 70s. You have to, it's a question of, are you a man or are you a mouse? One of the most useful things you can have in a garden. It's very simple. This is just a little bit of old wood that you kind of make bird boxes out. It can be anything, a bit of board and a bit of pallet. It's just anything. It's 32 inches long. I'm going to cut it in half, and what I'm going to make is a pair of boards, just simple boards for picking leaves up. Put that across there. I can put it on the bandsaw, but it would kind of spoil the effect, because not everybody's got a bloody bandsaw, have they? And here we go. I quite like the sound of sawing. There's something sort of like old-fashioned, therapeutic about it. Brilliant. Okay, what I'm trying to do here is come up with a method of creating leaf mould. Obviously now I'm not at Eggleston, I'm retired. I have to find a way of creating leaf mould without making a bloody great clamp in the garden. So I've come up with this method of using bins. I've got some of these old bins. I've seen it done with bin liners, but frankly they tend to break down and they look messy. Whereas these, I can put the leaves in and tread them down. And I think this will be a good method. I might put a bit of old carpet over the top just until they start to get some weight and break down, but I don't think it'll probably be necessary. They're really good. So I'm raking the leaves up in little piles around the garden. And here's the boards we made earlier. They're just perfect for like lifting them up. A very old way of doing things. You can buy fancy plastic ones for about 15 quid. I think they call them garden claws or something. 2 bits of old pallet would do just as well. I'm not, this time of the year, I'm not worrying too much about getting every leaf. The rest can be just left for the worms. I want some of that as well, but the bulk of it we can put into these bins. Over the course of the winter, I suspect this will break down and you'll end up with a quarter of what you've got in there. Surprisingly how heavy they are already. Well, this one is. Once they've broken down, you can tip one bin into the other, and then you can move them in and out and around the way. I would probably raise them up a little bit on a couple of battens or something, or a couple of bits of rock, just to let the moisture seep out of them and let them break down nicely. The other thing is, try and, if you've got, like if you look up there, you'll see I've got a Deutz Gold Beech and Oak. They have so much tannin in the leaves, they take ages to break down. So they would go into a separate one. I use this for trilliums and top dressing hellebores and things like that. And I grow quite a lot of trilliums, so I'll be able to use this next year. Until then, I'll have to go and pinch it from Eggleston. If you grab your boards by the end long ways, you can also ram these leaves into the bin nicely. So you really want to get them as rammed down as possible. I've already stood in that. I was just doing that to show you, but it's really good for around the edges. By way of an addition, what I would do is try and get as much of the old plant growth that you can, cut back, because getting the leaves from amongst old perennials and things is really difficult, whereas if I'd cut that back a couple of weeks ago I wouldn't have that problem. There's quite a lot of things, like geraniums down there, that could be cut back, and I can't get the leaves from in there, so it's not essential, but it would make the job somewhat easier. Obviously, I could blow the leaves into piles with a leaf blower, but not everybody has a leaf blower, so I'm just using the rake. But I would suggest that you just don't get too arsnippy about it, and just get the worst of them up, because the rest that are left there will be taken down by the worms, and it will do your garden no end of good. So that's all really on that. I suppose there's only one question left to answer, really. Where's the fucking cheese?